Now, students protesting across the country have multiple demands, but one common cause demanding schools stop doing business with Israel. Yes, there's a chant we're hearing a lot about because many of those universities are in command of a multi-billion-dollar endowment investment. Students have demanded that these universities withdraw their investments from companies that do business with Israel. Well, protesters at the Ivy League Brown University are the first at an elite school to reach an agreement with their school. They ended an anti-war encampment by convincing the administration to hold a vote on whether to divest from companies that do business with Israel. Now, last week, the student body at Barnard University voted in favour of a divestment referendum. 90% of those who voted did so in favour. But most universities have refused to act in spite of student votes. And furthermore, about 30 US states have adopted laws that effectively punish companies that boycott Israel. Omar Barghouti is founding member of the Palestinian campaign for the academic and cultural boycott of Israel. He's also the co-founder of the Boycott Divestment and Sanctions movement, also known as BDS, and joins us now from Ramallah. Good to have you with us on the programme, sir. Students at colleges around the country in the US have for some time voted to divest from Israel, and the vote at Columbia, you might say, passed after two previous failed attempts. Why do you think that mood is changing?
I think that Israel's televised genocide against 2.3 million Palestinians in the occupied and besieged Gaza Strip has been the most important factor behind those uprisings on US, UK, French, Australian, and Canadian and other campuses. Basically, this is the first time in history that a state is live streaming its genocide, starving people to death, killing children, destroying hospitals, universities, schools, committing scholasticide, and so on. The second point is that solidarity movements in the United States have been planting the seeds, building grassroots power to affect policy change. So BDS is not new in the US. We've been calling for boycotts. We've succeeded with some boycott campaigns. Divestment has been around for quite a few years. And with this live stream genocide, student leaders with their fearless, creative tactics are now saying enough is enough. Our institutions must end their complicity in genocide, and that takes the shape of divestment and academic boycott.
Let me just jump in there, because pictures and the story of occupation, Israeli military shootings, settler violence, they've been there for years, and the pictures have been broadcast globally. What is it specifically, do you think, about the narrative now that's awakened, you might say, students globally?
Yes, with Israeli military occupation forces shooting Palestinians, it's been going on for decades. In fact, 76 years of settler colonialism and apartheid. But we've never seen a televised genocide before. No Israeli forces dared to commit live stream genocide before. The International Court of Justice has ruled that it's plausible genocide. Tens of UN experts, hundreds of international law experts are saying it's a textbook case of genocide. That is very different. And it's not just a genocide that's committed by some pariah state. This is a very important point. The United States is a partner in genocide. So those students are recognizing that their government, their institutions are complicit.
So you have a scenario where students now want divestment from Israel. They want it clear, they want it transparent. In one particular case, as we've just mentioned, it's going to happen. Is it going to be hard to police and oversee, in your opinion?
It is always hard to make sure that universities actually implement what they commit to. But the first step is to get them to commit. We can't, jump from A to Z. It's a gradual process. It's a longer process, takes patience, takes perseverance, but most importantly, takes power, building grassroots power to make administrations do no harm, end their complicity in Israel's genocide and underlying system of apartheid, which is not just about divestment. Now it's divestment. It's also academic boycott, ending projects with complicit Israeli universities.
Well, don't you also think that big business is going to hit back, really. You might be able to take money away from universities that don't agree with Israeli policy, but then you get the statements, as we're hearing in the last few hours, by the likes of a presidential candidate, Donald Trump, calling these students, lunatic lefties, and that they have to be got rid of. I mean, these are the next generation of thinkers, educationalists, doctors, even politicians, perhaps, in the US.
Yeah, it's a badge of honor for every student activist in solidarity with Palestine today when you have fascist politicians in the US calling them with such smears. I would take that as a badge of honor. It's a testament to their effectiveness. They're shaking the stagnant pond of US politics that has been so complicit for decades in Israel's settler colonialism and apartheid, and now genocide.
Mr. Barghouti, just briefly and just finally, I spoke to our senior political analyst, Marwan Bashara, on Wednesday evening, and he said really that the American politicians or European politicians just don't know how to deal with Generation Z. They're an unknown quantity, yet they are a mixture of all of the experiences of post-war World War II onwards. Their grandparents, their uncles, their aunts have all been telling them stories about what it was like to work through Vietnam or the civil rights movement. They are an unknown quantity.
Well, when I was at Columbia in 1985, I was a tiny little part in the blockade of Hamilton Hall to call for divestment from apartheid South Africa. It was the same story again. Repression, horseback police forces hitting at demonstrators, peaceful protesters. But 5-6 months after that immense blockade led by Black students, Columbia did divest. It will take longer with Israel. We understand the lobby groups, whether Christian Zionists, Jewish Zionists, the military industry, are immense. Yes, we understand that. But it sounds impossible until it is possible. We make it possible with our principles and strategic plans. And I think those student leaders are strategic. They know what they're doing, and they're very creative.
OK, we'll see what does happen then. For the moment, Omar Barghouti, thanks so much for joining us from BDS. Thank you.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.